Okay, I kind of left off a minute ago. We're now going to be taking up with indentured servants and be a little more systematic. There were three or so distinct categories of indentured servants, or at least looking back on it, it appears that way. The ones we were discussing at the end of the previous video would have been referred to as customary servants. Why? Because the contract that they would sign or agree to probably is not drawn up by a legal expert who knows all the differences in how servants are treated in different specific places in America. So if he's not sure, say for example, how long someone like you would serve, he's going to insert the phrase, the custom of the country, hence customary. Would you sign a contract if it didn't say how many years? Well, you might. It depends on how desperate you were. You're probably pretty desperate. So again, the generalization is 7 years, but there can be some variation. The customary servants are the ones who serve at the custom of the country, right? That they're unskilled. They tend to be young. So turn your brain on for a second here. Who would serve a longer time? A 25-year-old who has something of a work ethic, maybe a skill, or a unskilled 15-year-old who needs a lot of supervision. Okay, the younger and less experienced you were, the longer you're likely to serve. It could be as much as 10 years. So customary servants are the largest category. Then there are voluntary servants. These are the minority who actually possess a marketable skill. They're carpenters, bricklayers. Just being able to read and write and add and subtract puts you in that category, because if you can do that, you can have the soft life being a tutor on a plantation. So any number of skills you might have. And why would you want to come to America? Because the work is available in England, but skills like yours are scarce in America. It's going to pay a good bit better, and there's not a lot of competition. So, and you won't have to work as long. A voluntary servant might be looking at no more than 2 or 3, maybe no more than 4 years, because their labor is worth more. Hence, it doesn't take as much of it to pay off the debt for traveling to America. Okay. A new category came along in the early 1700s. Convicts. Okay. Let me start that this way. A capital crime is one punishable by what? Well, capital punishment. That's the death penalty, isn't it? In our culture today, we're very, very careful about what crimes we regard as serious enough to merit the death penalty. And even if someone is given a death sentence, by the time it's carried out, nobody remembers what the crime was. So anyway, the deal is, in Britain, in the beginning of the 1700s, they had over 260 capital crimes on the books. Over 260 different things you could get the death penalty for, probably hanging. So it's getting to the point where it's difficult to get convictions, and it puts jurors in a quandary, because jurors in those days, they're law-abiding people. They want to do right, but hey, maybe this poor guy poached a deer on a duke's estate or something. And by the way, the legal system, it's not egalitarian. It's not just what you did, it's who you did it to. You have protected classes of people. Anyway, you did that to feed your starving children, if you happen to have any. So the Crown's case is airtight. You definitely did it. But if they find you guilty, they're going to string you up. But if they don't find you guilty, they'll let an innocent man go free. What are they going to do? In, I believe, 17, you know what? Check your supplements. It's either 1712 or 1718. I'd put a slight possibility more like 1718. Parliament enacted the Transportation Act, and it provided a new way of disposing of people who'd been convicted of capital crimes. Now, they didn't offer this to really, really nasty mass murderer criminals if they had those. Just run-of-the-mill cases where it's not that big a deal, but you're supposed to get the death penalty. So let's say you've been caught at whatever you did, been brought into court, you've been tried and convicted, and you're brought before the judge. The judge reads the accusation, he reads the verdict, and then he gives you a choice. Here's your choice. One choice would be to be taken directly from this courtroom to the gallows and there hanged by the neck until dead. They put the last two words on there so you won't think if the rope breaks you walk free. And they're not going to wait around for an appeals process. That's the first choice. The second choice would be to accept an immediate pardon from the king with the condition that you would then be transported to one of His Majesty's colonies in America, there to be sold as a servant for the term of 7 years. And the judge looks at you and he waits and he waits and he says, well, what's it going to be? And you say, I'm thinking. No, I think that'd be an easy one. So convicts start to show up among the potential indentured servants for sale in colonial ports. And you've heard about that. You don't know whether you want to trust one of these people or not. This is a criminal. What they do, they're not going to tell you. The ship captain's not going to tell you whether they're convict or not. So your mind's going to play tricks on you. Plus, by that time, the English economy has recovered nicely. There aren't these big crowds of desperate down and out or potential economic refugees like there used to be. Those are thinning out. So, but convicts, a lot of convicts came over. When the colonies became independent, the Brits started shipping their convicts to Australia. And it was just a big penal colony. It's my understanding they weren't trying to sell them. They just take them down and dump them out and say, good luck, guys. So anyway, I could go into more on that, but I'm not going to. A final category of indentured servants, very different from the others. They're not from the British Isles. They're more like from Northern Europe. Germany, for example, they might be religious refugees, and they're known as redemptioners. And there's a lot about this that doesn't make as much sense to me as I'd like for it to. Consequently, if it doesn't make sense to you either, I can't really help you. These people were Europeans who came over as whole families, not just single men and women, whole families, mama, papa, X number of kiddos, and the deal is they get to ride the ship on the promise that they will pay upon arrival. Okay? Now, I have an idea how that would work. They probably either had or thought they had made an agreement with someone in the colonies to finance their trip when they arrive. That might or might not work out. It's probably not going to. But it would make me wonder, if you didn't have the money when you got on the boat, how are you going to have the money when you get off the boat? Are you a really good poker player? Oh, well. So, and this was tough enough to make 18th century people who could just shrug off things that would make us faint, make them just wince, because when they arrive, if no one steps up to finance the whole group, they're going to be parted out. Mom's going to go one direction, dad's going to go another direction, the kids get scattered, and the chances this family will ever gather again around the same supper table again, ever, somewhere between slim and none. And Slim just left town. So you have people coming over as indentured servants. Now, once you've served your term, you're free. In a face-to-face class, I would ask this question at about this point. Let's say you woke up tomorrow morning and you slipped through a time warp and you find yourself an indentured servant as an indentured servant in 17th century South. That's not going to be nice, okay? The master kind of owes you food, clothing, and shelter. Don't expect anything fancy. Expect to be worked early and hard and often. Now, tell me the truth. I can't see you, but pretend I can. If you were an indentured servant in that situation, would you think about running away? Now, answer the question exactly as I put it. Think about running away. Thinking about doing something and actually doing it are not the same thing, but one does tend to lead to another. I don't think people very often ever do things they have not pre-visualized. All right. You think about anybody think about it, would you actually try it? It happened pretty frequently. Indentured servants would run away, but if we're talking about the 17th century southern colonies, that's pretty dicey. You're on foot, all right? If you steal a horse to make your getaway, that's a whole nother crime. That's way worse than just running away. And your world is probably a clearing in a dense forest, and you get 50 feet past the edge of the forest, and all the directions look alike, and you don't have a map. They're not roads. They're not signs. They're big wide rivers with no bridges. There's hungry critters out there that would like to eat you. You're nice and crunchy. And they're Indians. If you fall into their hands, they will. The possibilities range all the way from being tortured to death to being adopted into the tribe. So I'm going to do that. If someone in the tribe had died, they would adopt a replacement. You'd get their name and status. Well, chances are you're going to get caught. You run away, you're going to get caught. You're going to be brought back, and you're going to be put on trial because jumping your contract, jumping your indenture is a crime, and newsflash, you will be convicted. Now, your sentence will be to have your length of service extended. And this is a generalization, admitting of a lot of variation, but often they would have a kind of pro rata thing for the sentencing that does not satisfy our modern need for proportion. If you're gone one day before they catch you, they'll slap on an extra week. If you're gone a week, they'll add a month. I'd say go for the week, it's a better deal. If you're gone a month, they'll add a year, but hey, if you're gone a month, you're gone. You might be in the belly of the beast, but you're not coming back. So anyway, that could happen to you. Now, let's say you somehow managed to live long enough to serve out your contract, and a great many people didn't in the 17th century. Then you're free. You're on your own, and your master owes you by tradition an outfit. The word outfit could refer to a whole range of possible things. Possibly some clothes, maybe some farm tools, some seed, maybe even a busted down old plow horse or something. It's not going to be land, okay? Former indentured servants did not claim their head right grants. That went to the master who paid their way. So, but then you're on your own, and you have three choices. In the South, you could either be a farmer or you could become a farmer. If neither one of those appeals to you, you could always take up agriculture, right? That's because what is the number one necessity of life in the southern colonies? Agriculture. Now, of course, if you have some marketable skill, that's a whole different deal. But typically, you have to be a farmer, and you can't be a farmer unless you got a farm. It takes land. How do you get that? You can't claim a head right grant. So that's not available to you. So there's two ways to go about this. There's the slow, honest way and the faster, dishonest way. The honest way would be to hire yourself out for wages as a farm laborer, save your income, and try to buy some land later on. If you say, wait a minute, I thought they said if it's for sale, it's worn out. Yeah, that too, but that would work. The other way, it's quicker, dicier. You just steal an axe and head out in the woods, pick a spot, start cutting down trees, and go for it. In other words, become a squatter.